I don't know. For me, it's like I'm like all in or all out. It's so hard for me to be like half in with something. Imagine being alone your whole life and not being able to talk to another human. That would be fucking insane. You would go mad. I think a lot of artists would relate to this, but it's kind of just what you said. I hope that I'll be remembered for my music and that it transcends like generations and past me, which is, that's like kind of difficult for any musician, even like the biggest musicians ever. Like, the ones that.
An opportunity for you to become immortal. Would you choose to become? If so, why? And if not, why?
Wow. That's a great question, because there have been a lot of times in my life where at the moment I thought, this is it. This is the moment where it all changes. It was at that moment where I realized I need to lower my expectations, because that I was like so high. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be like great. And when it didn't work out, it like crushed me, because I just set my expectations so high. I thought that was like, this was it kind of thing. Another thing that I feel a lot of people don't do is drink enough water, like stay hydrated.
And I assure you that we were very hydrated while recording the podcast. But guys, this was a very fun and also, I guess, entertaining podcast, as well as educational, purely because Szabo has been able to, and he was willing to dive into some of the hardships he's been through. Keep in mind, this guy has been going at it for almost 9 years now. So 9 years ago, he basically decided that, hold on a second, I wanna at some point pursue this career as a music artist full time, right? And he really stood the course and encountered a lot of setbacks, and he's been through quite a few moments when he thought this was it. He made it, and then only to be let down not long after. But he shared all of that with us. He talks about creativity, how to find it, and how he basically stores his new song ideas, and I found particularly that one quite insightful. We also cover how he got contacted to play at free shows in China over the space of a weekend before ever doing a proper show. And Szabo also mentions that he had almost no idea that he had such a big audience in China, and for sure it was a moment when he realized that all the work paid off. We also talk about how to tap into real drive and what's been able to help Szabo keep this drive throughout the years, especially during lockdown, when he mentions that he really started getting serious about his health, his nutrition, and it's definitely something that most probably in the music artist scene is not really talked about. So we've been very honored to have Szabo talk about these things on the podcast. And hey, if this is the first time you're listening to The Grateful Show, make sure to check all the other episodes. This is season 3. We got a lot more guests coming in the next couple of weeks, and if you're enjoying it, please do give us a 5-star rating review. It can be on iTunes or Spotify now. And yeah, without further ado, I'm very excited for you to be listening to this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, no one other than Szabo. You are listening to The Grateful Show with your hosts Pascu
and Bogdan. Join us on our mission to spread awareness around mental health and make people feel happier and overall more grateful.
Each week, we bring you an inspiring guest, stories, and a message that will help you become your best self and pursue your life mission.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of The Grateful Show. Hope you are doing fantastic, and if you are not, you're about to be, because today we have no one other than Szabo, known as Szabo. How is it going, my friend?
Good. How are you guys?
Really, very well.
Really appreciate the opportunity to have you on. I mean, I've been listening to your music for quite a while, and I can say that how we actually like connected each other. It's kind of crazy, because I've sent you with the Spotify, with the wrap up, with the yearly wrap up. Yeah, I just saw and I was mind blown how much I can listen to your music, because it's amazing. I can listen to it like in the gym, when I'm chilling. I mean, it's awesome. And
right. Sorry to cut you off, but for context for people listening, Bogdan sent me his Spotify Wrapped, and he was like in my top 0.05% of listeners or something crazy like that. And he reached out. So I was like, oh my God, I got to come on this podcast. This guy's a legend. So I appreciate the support, man.
My man,
No.
I mean, it really helped me a lot with my workout, especially hunters. So I
Yeah.
swear to you, whenever I start my workout, the song I put in is hunters. It just gets me like.
I'm honored. I'm honored, brother.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, before diving any deeper and any further, I just wanted to ask you, Szabo, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for two main things. I don't want to pick just one. There's two main things that I'm really grateful for. One is my health, and two is my relationship with my family.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Priceless things.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, just to give a bit even more depth and something fun to the audience. I think we first came across your stuff last year when we were in the pandemic. Everything was closed in London. We were living together, and basically we were trying to do raves at home. And basically we came over Breathe, which I'm most likely going to let our production guys play now for the audience.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Oh, cool.
And we started doing breathing exercises on that song, believe it or not. And it was just
fuck
amazing.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. But Szabo, for our audience that doesn't really know you, doesn't really understand what you do, what we are all about with these conversations, can you give us like a 2 to 3 minutes introduction to who you are and how you came to be where you are?
Yep. So I am Canadian. I grew up in Niagara Falls, as we talked about. And around like when I started going to university, I really fell in love with dance music, and I fell so in love with it that I wanted to start making dance music. That was in 2012, going into 2013. So I started producing dance music as a hobby, and fast forward 8 to 9 years later, I'm now doing it full time. But it's been a grind. It's not easy, but it was like my passion, and I just worked really hard at it. And now it's come to the point where I can like sustain myself financially through it. So that's just like a quick little gist. I make dance music. I fell in love with dance music so much that I wanted to start making it. Fast forward 9 years, and here we are.
Awesome story, man. I love it. You know what? You mentioned that you said actually fast forward 8-9 years, which is kind of a lot. I mean, a lot of failures, I guess, and a lot of things that made you like want more and more because you saw that people are actually enjoying your music. And that's what I wanted to ask you. Was that success? I mean, like that little bit of success every month, every year, booster for your confidence and your motivation to actually create more and more?
Yeah, so I'll touch on that. The crazy thing is, and I think this happens with a lot of people who follow a passion or some sort of like career path that isn't conventional, something that's like not just like a 9-to-5 office job. A lot of it's like really hard to find success in because you really, it's all kind of up to you, and it's all like, it depends on your determination, your drive, and all of that. So to be completely honest, like I thought within a few years of doing it, I was going to be like rich and so famous and everything. And I think a lot of people have that mindset. And what I think happens with a lot of people, if they're not as passionate about what they're doing, if they're doing it more so for the money or the fame or whatever, I think they're going to end up stopping that a lot of times before they do find the success they were originally hoping to get. And I think with me, when I started it, it was just something I was so passionate about. Of course, the goal, I think, for everyone doing something that they love as like a hobby is to be able to support themselves with it and turn it into a career. So that was my goal when I started this. But at the same time, I was so passionate about dance music, as I still am, that it didn't matter how long it took me to find any success. I was just happy to do it. Of course, I'm like driving for that. But if I don't accomplish something, it's not going to deter me. Or if I don't reach a certain goal within this year or next year, it's not going to like break my heart so much that it's going to like make me want to stop. So going off of that, yeah, it took me a long time to kind of find the success and start to build a fan base and actually get good at producing music, because it's quite hard, to be honest. It does take like years of practice, and I'm still learning. Like I still have so much room to grow. So I was just kind of like taking it easy on myself. I was working so much, working hard. I was working at a lot of restaurants as I was doing this because I had to pay the bills. I wasn't making any money. So I was just working serving jobs. and bartending and stuff like that. That was helping me stay afloat financially. And it would also give me more time to be able to work on music, because with the serving or bartending job, at least in Canada, North America, we get tips. And so I didn't necessarily have to work for like 40 hours a week in order to sustain myself, because I would make a decent amount of money off tips. And I think a lot of people do that in the entertainment world, like musicians, actors, people like that. They do serving jobs because you can make tips and it gives you more time to work on your craft. So as I was doing that, it was giving me like a lot of time to work on my music, and it was just like a slow and steady grind over the past few years till a couple songs started doing well, and it kind of snowballed from there.
Very interesting story. And one thing that I noticed is the fact that you said a lot of artists enjoy doing those jobs, serving other people. I would go and actually compare those serving, as you call them, services, where you serve people, with what you are currently doing, because you are a man of service, right? You are serving people through your creation, through your craft. So I think most probably that's why you also not necessarily absolutely loved being a bartender, but maybe that's why you've been able to like do that job, because you love helping people and you love putting a smile on their face. And I think that's what you do through to your music right now, right?
Yeah, I actually never really thought about it like that, but it's a good comparison. I mean, it's similar in a way. There's just totally different fields, but yeah, they have similarities in the sense that you're bringing smiles to people's faces. I guess that's like the main thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of people that, I mean, I'm not going to give names or like generalize, but there's a lot of people that don't even have a good taste of music nowadays. I mean, 90% of the people are just listening to what's on the radio, right? And
sure.
I saw this change within myself. Bogdan, I think he can speak for himself as well, that at some point whilst I was maturing, I started listening to more classical music. I actually got introduced to like hip hop, and then I dropped hip hop. I realized that things like house, techno, and dance are like super awesome. But where I want to get with this is all of these things require a lot of creativity. And I think that a lot of creative people appreciate those types of music more than your average guy who's not that creative and hasn't really got many creative endeavors. And to sum all of this up now, my question is, how did you create this creativity for yourself, or has it always been there?
To be honest, I think I've always had a creative mind, but in terms of creating music, in the beginning, like the first few years even of doing it, it takes a lot of like technical skills, like learning the technicalities of how to make music sound good and how to write music. In the early stages of that, it's harder to be creative because you're still focusing so much like mental capacity on like getting it to sound technically good, like professional. So it doesn't give you as much room to be creative. Like I think in a way at this point in my career, when I'm pretty confident in like how to produce music and I can make it sound professionally good, it allows my mind to not like think about like, how should I be like mixing this or anything. It gives my mind more like openness to be creative and just kind of like think of ideas. So all the time I'll just be finding ideas just randomly pop into my head, and I just grab my phone and record like a voice memo of me saying like, oh, here's like a new like drop idea for blah, blah, blah. And I'll sing it, like I'll hum it out. If I'm not at my computer, if I'm like out in public, like taking a walk or something, I'll just get ideas and I'll sing it into my phone. I have like hundreds of voice memos of me just like, it's like awkward as hell if you like listen back to it, but it's like, it's so I don't forget it. And then when I get back to my computer, I can now like lay it down into Ableton, which is the software I use to produce music. So yeah, I think like it's harder at the beginning to be creative. You might have some creative ideas, but it's so hard to actually like create what's in your mind into the software, into the song, when you're like, you still don't really know what you're doing. Yeah. So when you know what you're doing, you don't have to like think about like, how am I going to do this? You go like, okay, I have this idea. I can do this now. You see?
Yeah. I can definitely resonate with you, and I love your answer purely because I've been working around creative stuff like videography, podcast production, YouTube, whatever, for past 5-6 years, and a lot of people tell me, "Oh man, you're so talented, you are so creative, man," and I'm like, bro, like I'm not like I don't really understand that it's not just creativity. Like, oh my God, I've just got very creative and I made this video or this song. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I appreciate your answer. Go on, Bogdan.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about creativity, because I'm really curious what's your take on this. Would you say that every single human being is creative in their own way? I mean, obviously, some people are good or let's say talented at, like you, creating music, but I know that you have worked a lot hard, and yeah, that was a factor as well. But do you believe that every single person is able to actually create something which is like very nice? I mean, it sounds nice or it looks nice, or not necessarily?
Yeah, no, I think everyone has like the capacity to be creative. It all depends on what interests you. Like if there's someone who has no, like doesn't give a shit about making music, it's going to be hard for them to like be creative about that, because like their mind just doesn't like care about that. But I think everyone has a passion. I believe everyone, or most people at least, have a passion, something they're passionate about. And I think if you're so passionate about something, you can be creative in that space. If you're just so interested in it and you keep learning more about it, whatever it is, it can be anything, you will be creative in that. You will have creative ideas because it interests you. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And yeah, with that, I mean, your level of creativity, I mean, it feels like it's very unique, because for a lot of songs that you have, such as Hunters or Poseidon, like I've just mentioned, it's like almost like nothing I have never seen. So that's why I'm trying to find out how the hell did you like start creating that type of music, because it's very hardcore and it's very motivating as well, and it sets you on like this. You just have to put your headphones and that's it.
Well, first of all, thank you for that. It's a really nice compliment. I appreciate that. I do find inspiration from other artists that I listen to, of course, but a lot of times for certain songs I make, I know what I'm doing when I'm making the music, but a lot of times I'll just like to experiment and start turning knobs that I'm like, I don't really know what this is going to do. I understand like how everything works, but there's other things I'm like, I never done this before. I'm going to like twist this knob and use this modulation in a certain way. And I'll do that a lot. And that's how I get a lot of like my sounds in my songs. I just like, I'll have a basic idea of how to create a certain like movement of a sound or a certain tonality, and then I'll duplicate that sound, and I'll duplicate this like 10 20 times when I find like a general sound that I'm pretty happy with. I'll duplicate that, so I have the other one saved, and I start fucking with the new one, and I'll start experimenting and like moving shit around, and then I'll duplicate that again and again and again, and I'll just do that. And that's how I get creative. I don't really have like a specific sound in mind sometimes. I just have this idea, and then I'll start like tweaking things and everything. And that's how I get some like weird sounds. I'm like, I didn't even know how I did it. I can look back now and be like, oh yeah, I did this and did this because it's all saved. But a lot of times I'm just like experimenting, you know?
You're doing to those frequencies, but I can tell you for sure that they are working. Like I literally, even when I'm taking cold showers, sometimes I'm listening to your stuff. And I wanted to ask you, because obviously it took you, as you said, 8, 9, 10 years, a decade to achieve what you've achieved so far. And I'm more than sure that you're not stopping here. But my question to you now is, obviously it's being gradual, right? It hasn't happened overnight. It's like that saying, it took me 20 years to become an overnight success. But what I want to ask you, which I think will benefit the audience, is what was one of the breakthroughs, one of the breakthrough moments when you actually were like, oh shit, this is happening. This is my life turning around.
So that's a great question, because there have been a lot of times in my life where at the moment I thought, this is it. This is the moment where it all changes. And I feel like a lot of people in a creative space like have that same realization, but then later you're like, okay, it wasn't as big as I thought. The first one was, and this was like 6 years ago. This was before I was making music as ZABO. I had another alias before. This is probably 3 or 4 years into me making music. This is when SoundCloud was popping. Everyone was going like using SoundCloud. Artists were using SoundCloud. There were these channels that would that would post people's music. They had a lot of followers. They were almost like record labels, but they're more just like people, individuals who had like had a big following because they posted good music, or maybe they were artists as well, but they also post other people's music that they really enjoyed. And there was this one guy, I believe his name is Thomas Hayden. And at the time, he had one of these channels that would post like a lot of people's music. If he found a good one on SoundCloud, he'd hit them up and say, I'd like to release this as well as on my channel. And it would get a lot of like views, at least compared to like smaller artists like myself at the time. And he found one of my songs and he had posted it. And it was like, at the time I was getting maybe like 2,000-3,000 views per track. And this is like, I was like heavy grinding at this time. I was like, just like grinding so hard to get a couple thousand plays. And he had posted it and it got like 50,000 plays. I was like, this is it. I'm blowing up. I'm like, this is it. It's fucking over. And I was like, okay, this is great. It turns out like it wasn't that big of a deal, but at the time it was like, it gave me so much happiness because I was like, it was like, it takes so long to get even a little success like that. So it was like a good like rush of like dopamine. I'm like, okay, I'm like in the right direction. Another thing is, at one point, this is probably a couple years later, this is my first ever release as ZABO. I did a bootleg remix, which means an unofficial remix of a song, and posted it on SoundCloud. I think there might have been a remix contest or something for it. And then the original artists of that song, they found it on my SoundCloud. They commented. These were like pretty big artists, and they still are. But their management reached out to me. This was probably 2017, and said, hey, we're really interested in you. And they had like a pretty big roster with artists that are like really big. And they're like, we'd like to like meet you sometime. We hopped on a phone call, and they lived in LA. I was living in Toronto still. And they're like, if you're ever in LA, like we'd love to meet you and like actually meet you. And I was like, oh shit, these guys were like big, this management team. I'm not going to say who it was just because whatever. But I literally was like, I was still working a serving like job at this time. So I had some freedom. Yeah. And so this was on like Monday or Tuesday. And I was like, what are you guys doing on Thursday? And they're like, we're free. So I booked a flight and I went to LA to meet these guys. Cause I was like, and I didn't have management at the time.
Did
like,
you call in sick at the job?
You know what? I think I got my shift switched. I'm like, guys, this is really important. Honestly, I would have gone even if I couldn't get a switch. I'm like, I need to do this. Like, it doesn't matter if I can't get off. I have to do this. And I met these guys for lunch, and it went well. After they, I was like, I'll email you guys just like a little summary of what we talked about, and we'll like keep like connecting. And then after lunch, we all left. It was great. And then I emailed them later in the day. They never replied. A week later, I just followed up, and they still never got back to me. Like from this day, like they never got back to me. And I really thought at that moment I was going to get like this management team was going to sign me. I was going to be on this roster with like some of the biggest artists like in dance music. And I really thought that was going to be my big break too. It just didn't end up working out. It was at that moment where I realized I need to lower my expectations, because that I was like so high. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like great. And when it didn't work out, it like crushed me because I just set my expectations so high. I thought that was like, this was it kind of thing. And so from that, it was kind of a great lesson for me to not like have no expectations, but kind of keep my expectations like at a reasonable level. So now I don't go into anything like with so much like, oh my God, this is it. Because like a lot of things in a lot of the entertainment industries, it's easy to get disappointed. People don't follow through with things. It happens. That's just how life is, I guess. So that was like a good learning moment for me. But the main thing that I can say still to this day was like a big like change for me was in 2019. I found out I have a decent sized fan base in China, which I had no idea about, but these people reached out to me, and my management, they're like booking agents / managers in China. And they said, ZABO is like pretty big in China. Like, can we book them for like a 3-show tour in like a month? And I was like, I didn't even know if this was real. I hadn't ever played a show yet as ZABO. It was still like, I was a couple years into it, but I hadn't really played a show. I was still like pretty small in North America. I'm still relatively small in North America and the rest of the world. But in China, they were like, yeah, he's like pretty big. And I was like, I don't know if this is real. But sure enough, they sent a contract. And next thing I know, I went to China and I did like a 3-show tour over one weekend in China. And since that happened, it just like grew really quickly in China. So the last half of 2019, I went like 5 separate times to China, and near the end of the year, I was just making enough money off of playing shows there that I was able to quit my job and start doing music full time, which is like when I last had a job was October 2019. Of course, COVID happened, so that stopped. So I've had some other ways to like make money through my music since then. But going to China was like huge. It was like a huge break for me, and it was kind of random. It was just one of my songs that I'd released a couple of years prior started blowing up in China, and I have no idea how. They don't have Spotify or Apple Music or anything that we have in the rest of the world because they're like a communist country. They kind of have their own like social media and all of that. So it was completely disconnected from everything like that we see on social media and everything. So that's why I was so surprised. And it's like a night and day difference between like that, like the fan bases. But that was a huge thing that kind of like changed like my trajectory, I guess you could say.
Nice.
Yeah. This is
Very,
really
very cool
inspiring.
story.
Yeah. And really, cool story. A story that you can actually tell when you will be like a grandparent.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
There's this quote. I don't know who's mentioned it, but I always keep it at the back of my mind. It's like, you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. Someone very big could be watching right now, and that could be changing your trajectory, just as you said. But Szabo, you were mentioning at some point, about having a lot of dopamine released, and that tells me that you are quite aware of chemistry, biohacking. And now my question to you is, how do you actually balance your dopamine? Because I personally can maybe imagine and like maybe can think of how your lifestyle is when you're on tours and when you're doing actual shows. So it's probably even crazier than I can imagine. But how do you manage that? Because there's definitely a big imbalance between like being full on out and then being all on your own for a while at home, just chilling and I guess rejuvenating yourself.
Right. So for me personally, I still haven't gotten to the point where I'm playing shows like every weekend or anything. And especially since COVID, I've only had like a handful of shows since COVID. And even right before, like it was the last half of 2019 where I first started playing shows. And in that last like 6 months, I probably played like 15 or so shows. It wasn't even that crazy. So I haven't had a proper like tour life, always on the road or everything. So it's not too hard for me to like keep myself in check. I don't really drink too much in general, but for like the last show of like a little mini weekend tour or something, I'll like have like a few more drinks than normal, I'll, like enjoy myself and everything. And of course I'm like hungover on the flight and whatever, and it sucks. But most of the time I'm at home in Toronto and it's like the same thing every day. And one thing that I've really been taking seriously in the past 2 years is like my health and fitness. And it's like a non-negotiable. Like I have to work out 6 days a week and on the honestly like 7 days a week, but not strength training 7 days a week. I have to be active 7 days of the week. Like the first thing I do when I wake up and eat breakfast is I have to like work out. That's just something I have to do. And I feel like that's definitely a huge part of like keeping myself mentally good. I consider my diet like quite healthy compared to the average person. I'm very conscious about like what I eat, and I do like track my calories and everything. I'm very serious about this stuff. I don't like obsess over it, but it's just something that like it makes me happy. It's like something that interests me, so it's something I do. So the fact that I have a good diet and I exercise and I drink a lot of water and make sure I get a lot of sleep, I think that's like the best thing I can be doing to keep my mind like right. And so that's something I've been taking really seriously, as I said, like over the past couple of years.
Yeah,
health is wealth.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really, not that I'm surprised, but I'm really happy that people like you, like at your level, when you are creating at your level, are actually preoccupied with their health and fitness. And I'm really happy that you actually know how important this thing is in order for you to actually be mental clear in order to create what you create. Because yeah, of course, like in history, there were all the artists like Picasso and all other people like on other areas, which were getting drunk, maybe they were getting high. And of course, maybe that works with you being creative, because maybe some people find that in that like creation, in that thing creation. But I'm really happy how you can actually balance this, and you like found like a balanced life where you can actually create in the same time keep your mental health high as well, because you are living a high life with all the like songs that you create and the tours that you just said.
Right. Yeah. And just to go off that, there was a time like slightly before COVID for a couple of years where I wasn't being healthy. I was eating unhealthily. I was probably drinking too much. And I was just like going through a tough time mentally. And I didn't realize how much like even just my diet played into my mental well-being. It didn't really like click for me until I kind of changed my diet. I'd been like healthy in the past. I had always been a pretty healthy dude, but there was a couple years like 2018 and maybe a little bit of 2019 where I lost it. And it was just kind of a gradual thing. I didn't realize how bad it was getting, just for me, like being mentally down and everything, and my diet not being the best. And it was just kind of like a snowball effect that just like kind of put me in like a bad place. And I didn't realize just how much diet specifically can change your mood and everything, and just like help your mind feel better. And once I kind of realized that, I had an epiphany. I was like, I gotta fucking like, I gotta be healthier, man. And that's what I started doing. So at this point, I'm like, it's a non-negotiable. I gotta eat healthy. Of course, like I enjoy myself. I'll
Obviously
get drunk on the weekend sometimes and like have pizza and wings. Like I'm not an animal. I still gotta eat and like enjoy myself, but it's all about like a balance. Like most of the time it's like I'm like eating clean and being healthy and getting a lot of sleep and all that.
I love how you said it, keep it balanced. So now just to change a little bit the subject, I just wanted to ask you, what experience are you the most grateful for so far?
I mean, we just touched on it, but I think I'd have to say the whole China thing. I mean, like when I started making music, it's not something that ever crossed my mind. Like, oh, like maybe I'll get to go to China one day or like fly across the world. It was kind of like my focus was just on building a fan base with like the audience that I could like connect with on Instagram, which is like most of the world, to be honest. But China was just something that never crossed my mind. And then it kind of like fell into my lap, I guess you could say, because I had no idea about it. It was like, I didn't necessarily try to do that. It was just that my music happened to resonate with people there. And it gave me the opportunity to just like fly across the world, but also get paid to do it, essentially, which is like so crazy to think about. And I'm so grateful for it. And it's a crazy experience, the experiences I've had so far. And I'm just excited to like keep doing it whenever COVID lets that happen. But yeah, I'm definitely, that's the thing I'm most grateful for. It was something unexpected, but definitely what I'm most grateful for.
Awesome. And for me, to be honest, it's no wonder they've found your music and then they just started listening.
Sure.
And I would just make a joke and say that who knows what other dimensions you are accessing with,
Right.
with those songs of yours. We'll find out in a couple of years that, that there was actually some aliens listening to your songs, and now you're going to another planet.
Yeah, see you later. I'm out.
But you're saying, Szabo, that this is one of your non-negotiable, right? Keeping on track with your fitness and with your nutrition. And what we ask each guest, purely because obviously it's super beneficial to our audience, but also because we want to show our audience that there is a pattern within successful people. So what we ask is, what are 3 actionable tips or 3 habits or 3 non-negotiables that you apply in your life and that you can recommend our audience moving forward?
Well, I think it's something like the things we've already touched on. I just find that exercise in general, and this is proven, it releases endorphins, which are feel-good chemicals in our brain that boost our mood. And not only that, it's just generally good to keep your body, your physical body, healthy as well. It's better for, I don't know, for when you get older, you're gonna have less heart problems if you're like, fit, a little more fitter if you do exercise a lot. So I think that's something that everyone should do. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be like on the bench press, like putting up hundreds and stuff. It just means like get your heart rate up. I guess that's a simple way to put it. Go on a jog, go on like a brisk walk, stuff like that. Yeah, definitely. I think something that everyone should be doing, because it does make you feel good mentally and physically too. And another thing that I feel a lot of people don't do is drink enough water, like stay hydrated. So I think like, yeah, exactly. Let's all take a sip of water. Here we go. Cheers to that. Yeah, cheers to that.
Yes.
And so I've been trying to drink like a lot of water, and like sometimes I'm annoyed at how much I have to pee because I drink so much water. I'll literally be like having to pee every like 20-30 minutes.
I think Bogdan can relate.
Yeah. So like this,
definitely.
like the last time I did a photo shoot, which I do all my photo shoots just like out in like the city, wherever in different areas, I'll have to like find like areas to like go like pee in like every 20 minutes. Like I can't, and it's like kind of gets annoying at some point, like how much I have to like pee, but you got to be hydrated, man. It's great for your body. And another thing I think people should, I don't know, maybe put a little more energy into and focus on is their like hobbies. I think a lot of people in life take the safe route in their careers, which is good. And if you're doing what you like to do and it's like a 9 to 5 and that makes you happy, that's amazing. I'm happy for you. But I feel like a lot of people don't kind of chase their dreams as much as they want to in their head because it's not conventional. They might fail and that scares them, or they don't want to be judged by other people. But I think I always tell people, like, if you have a passion or a hobby and you have the opportunity to at least try to make it a career or something that can sustain you financially, you should at least give it a try, like a good try, because I don't know, you might regret it later on in life if you didn't give it the best try. And I feel like more people need to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this. With us. I mean, definitely these are non-negotiable for me and for Pascu as well. And like, I feel like our listeners already like have an idea on that, and we are discussing health and fitness as well. But the thing with the habit, I mean, it's really a non-negotiable. You really got to follow your dream, because otherwise, like you said, you will just find yourself trapped into the 9 to 5 rat race. And basically you are just like pursuing someone else's dream. I mean, someone open up a restaurant and you are working for him or her, and you are making that dream true, when in fact you should be making your own dream true, isn't it?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
There was this quote where they say a salary is a drug they give you to forget about your dreams, or something like that.
Oh wow, I've never heard that.
It allows you to not pursue your own dreams, and that's kind of it, right? It's more modern slavery if you really look at it. Like I think it's over 88% of Americans don't have $1,000 if they don't get the next paycheck or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's 70% in the UK. When I heard about the UK, living here, I was like blown away. And that's overall Americans. Like if you look at people under 30 or under 25, you don't even want to imagine how much debt is in there. But that's another story for another time for sure. But what I wanted to ask you, Szabo, is obviously you are creating a lot, and there's certainly I have no doubt that there's certainly songs that will last for a long time, long after we all three are gone.
Hopefully, yeah.
Definitely.
So what I want to ask by addressing that is, what do you want to be remembered as or for long after you're gone?
That's a deep question for sure. I think a lot of artists would relate to this, but it's kind of just what you said. I hope that I'll be remembered for my music, and that it transcends like generations and past me, which is, you know, that's like kind of difficult for any musician, even like the biggest musicians ever. Like, you know, the ones that like their music is listened to, even though they're gone now. I can only hope that my music does the same, and that it's remembered for being like some unique and crazy shit. It's like, oh wow, this is like it's like unlike anything I've heard. That's what I'd like to be remembered for.
That's beautiful. I really like that. I mean, it's really nice to hear how other people have as their main dream to actually be remembered as something, not like for the guy who had a house, or for the guy who had this, I don't know, thing, not something material. Yeah, exactly. Not something material, but something that will actually last forever within people. And like that thing may or can change their like vibes, their energy, their mood. And this is where you ZABO play a very important role. And
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, it makes me so happy when people message me saying like, oh, your music like helped me through a hard time or anything, or I just love turning up to your music. Like when I get messages like that, it fulfills me so much, because like that's all I can ask for, is that people enjoy my music and it helps them, I don't know, get through a hard time, or turn the fuck up whenever they want to, like, you know, party or whatever. It makes me really happy when I get those messages.
Who needs caffeine, right?
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you though, a bit more of a philosophical question, if you wish, is
Sure.
if there will, and there will most likely be, an opportunity for you to become immortal, would you choose to become? If so, why? And if not, why?
Wow. Immortal. So I can just stay the same age forever and just kind of live forever.
Yeah.
That's a deep one. Okay. I'm going to say no, just because I feel like whoever the higher power is, whoever made Earth and us, there's a reason that we're not immortal. There's stuff in the afterlife that might be greater than this, and we have no idea. But that's kind of like what people are meant to go through, I believe, because people aren't immortal. So it might be cool to think about, like, wow, what would life be like in 500 years? And I can experience that. But at the same time, I'm definitely not like, I'm trying to like leave this life anytime soon. But I think eventually, when I think whatever is in the afterlife is something that interests me. I think that we are meant to move on. And so I think I'd say no to immortality. I want to be, you know.
I'm so happy we're on the same page. We had guests in the past that would say that, of course, I want to be immortal. Of course, I want to serve all of those people. And my counter argument to that would have been like, okay, if you are immortal, then how can you actually be as motivated? Like, you have all the time in the world, and how can you actually appreciate things such as like this time that we have together, such as like a glass of water? If you like have gotten like, I don't know, millions of glasses of water throughout history and like have seen cycles and empires come and go, like how can you actually appreciate things? Like that would be a curse. That would be like,
I agree. Horrible. I agree.
Yeah. Szabo, just another personal one for you. What was one of your biggest mistakes, and what lessons have you learned from those?
I don't know if there's been any like crazy mistakes I've made in my career. This is kind of like surface level, but this is just one thing that I can think of off the top of my head that I think people can relate to in my field or maybe similar fields is there's been like a contract that I signed for a certain thing that maybe wasn't in my favor, but I thought it was a good opportunity at the time. So I sacrificed a couple things in the contract in order for an opportunity that I thought would be beneficial. And turns out it wasn't. So it was just like, it was like a little bit of a financial mishap on my part. So now I'm just more careful with just like all contracts, I guess, overall. I know it's nothing like deep, but it is something that like impacted me in a certain way, like not like crazy. It's not like the end of the world, but it's something that makes me think now. And I do like kind of live my life and go through things with that in the back of my head saying, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So that's like one thing that I can think of that I guess I've learned from for sure that I keep in the back of my head now.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm more than sure that it really helped you like along your career as well. And it's really important to actually learn from your mistakes, because if you do the same mistakes, if you just say, okay, I'm going to start from tomorrow, or okay, I'm not going to stay this for tomorrow, I'm going to change from tomorrow, that's not going to happen, because you got to like have a change right now. And you got to think about your mistakes in order to actually work on the solutions in the like moment. Otherwise you will just be lost in the same loop for maybe years. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. And another thing that kind of jumps back to health, when I was like getting more and more unhealthy, I got to a point where I just realized I was getting like chubby. I was like, I need to make a change. And the one thing about me that I find I'm just like really good at is I'm very driven and motivated. And when I put my mind to something, like I will really do it. Like, and it's like can be very hard. Just one thing is like sticking to a diet or quitting some sort of addiction. Like, I don't know if you're addicted to like cigarettes or nicotine or something. For me, when I'm like driven to do something, when I'm motivated, I will do it. And like just to give an example of that, right when COVID started, or like this was March 1st, 2020, slightly before COVID started, that was the point where I was like, I need to start eating like clean again and like getting my shit together. And I was 190 pounds on March 1st of 2020. And by, I think it was July 1st, I was 155. And so, and that's because I just stuck to a diet. I ate, and like, this might not be the best way to do it. This is the easiest for me. I found like a diet that worked for me, a certain set of like meals each day. And I ate the same thing every day. I would adjust the portions depending on how many calories I needed as I was losing weight, but I ate the exact same thing every day. And that was just easy for me to stick to my goals. I didn't have any like need to think about like, what am I going to eat today? What am I going to buy at the grocery store? I didn't need to like have any of that like kind of rummaging through my mind. I was so focused on the goal of like, I need to lose the weight, get fit again, that I was just so driven. I was so focused on that. And that's one thing, yeah, that I feel like I'm pretty good at is like sticking to a goal and being driven.
And you really, I mean, your discipline helped you a lot along the way. And that's what people are nowadays missing, because they think that, okay, I'm going to start this when I'm going to be motivated, but that's not going to happen. It all starts with you being disciplined about like, it really depends on what we are discussing, but like on your food in this case, or maybe like on leaving social media for a while and actually working, not just like sending emails and all that. And that's the problem with people nowadays, because we don't have the discipline, and we don't have the discipline because we don't have like a habit, and we don't have like a goal in our mind as well, which you like had and were able to actually catch and pursue every single day.
Yeah. And something to go off that, like building habits is great, because if you're starting something new, it might be hard at first to stick to it. But once you do it for a couple of weeks and turn it into a habit, it's almost like second nature. It's something you don't even really think about at that point. And the more you're doing it, the more you're motivated to keep doing it. Like, for example, in fitness, if you're trying to lose weight, if you start noticing results in yourself, that's going to self-motivate you, that you're saying, oh, wow, I am seeing results based off what I'm doing. I'm going to continue doing this. So building habits is great for that.
A man is a total sum of his actions. Therefore, excellence is nothing but a habit.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, Seneca. Yeah, definitely. What I wanted to ask you though, I'm aware we are running out of time pretty soon, but what I wanted to ask you, mainly because I resonate with this, Bogdan resonates with it as well, but yet there are a lot of people out there that haven't really tapped into this one thing, and that is drive. Why do you consider that you have this drive? Has it started from some point from your childhood? Have you found it through like doing something specific? Because once you tap into it, I'm more than certain that even if you slack for like 2 or 3 years, you're able to tap back into it. It's just a matter of like wanting or not wanting something bad enough. How did you tap into it?
It's kind of crazy, yeah, because all my friends, they tell me too, like, you're the most driven person, Dan. It's like they find it crazy, like how much I will like actually do something when I stick to it. But I don't know, for me, it's like, I'm like all in or all out. It's so hard for me to be like half in with something. Like, I guess the first thing I can remember, like when it started, when I was probably like 10 years old in like elementary school, that's when I was like, started to think like, I want abs. I don't know. I was like, I want a 6-pack. I'm like 10 years old at this point. So I bought this little like yoga mat. And every morning when I woke up before school, I would do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups at 10 years old. And I stuck to that shit for like a while. And I guess that was like maybe the catalyst of like what gave me my drive, because it gave me a lot of pride. I think just to myself. I think it's just like a pride thing. I'm like, I can like wanted to prove to myself that I can stick to something. And that was the first thing I can remember of me doing it. A lot of this stems to like health and fitness, a lot of the stuff I've done over the years, and like my drive. I think that's what like drives me the most, is because you can see tangible results in that. You can see physical results. And I think that helps with the drive and the motivation. As I was saying before, when you see results, it motivates you to do more. At the same time, though, there have definitely been points in my life where I've lost that completely, and I've lost the drive, and I lost it, but I always come back to it. And I feel like as I'm growing into an adult, I'm 27 now, I've had a lot of trials and errors in a vast majority of things in life. I feel confident in that I'm at a point in my life where I'm like sustaining my like drive in what I'm doing very well. But yeah, there's been so many times over the years where I've kind of lost that drive, but it always comes back. And when it comes back in full force, and I'm like all in. So yeah.
It's a beautiful feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you actually like had a reason, have a purpose, and that's why, and that's what kept you on going. And with that, it might sound a little bit cliche and obviously subjective, but I really wanted to ask you, what would you say and consider that it's the meaning of life?
I think the meaning of life is to share happiness with others. I think one thing that we all need to not take for granted and really cherish is our relationship with other people. Imagine being alone your whole life and not being able to talk to another human. That would be fucking insane. You would go mad. You would go crazy. I think the meaning of life is sharing moments and building relationships with others and sharing happiness and hanging out with people and exploring that. I think that's so great. And I'm so grateful for like all the friendships I have with all of my friends from all different walks of life. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, my relationship with my family, I have a great relationship with my family. And it's something that I know like some people don't have. So I don't take that for granted. I'm extremely grateful for that. And I think that's the meaning of life. It's just like being with people and enjoying life with people.
That was really beautiful. Yeah.
The simplicity of it all. And we are just trying to make it all just way more complicated than it's supposed to be, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Szabo, everything has to come to an end, even great conversations like the one that we just had. Therefore, I'm just going to address you the last question of the show. Just take your time with it and just speak it all out after. So it goes like this. You are on your deathbed and you're just minutes before having to say goodbye to this world. But before you do so, you get to witness the best version of yourself is literally standing across you in that hospital bed. You see and comprehend what you could have become by looking that person into the eye. How would you feel about your life and the things that you've lived in that specific moment?
Well, what if the best version of myself that I'm seeing on my deathbed is a version of myself that I've actually lived? Because I feel like the way you're posing the question is something like the person I'm looking at is the person that I could have been at some point in my life. The way I see it, like the person that I look at on my deathbed, I don't know if it'll be like a certain version of myself, because the way I plan on living my life is that I'm not going to have any regrets, and I'm going to be so satisfied with how I've lived my life that the person on my deathbed will be that person who is in his best moments, because I've lived the life I wanted to live. I didn't leave anything behind. I didn't have any regrets. I kind of lived as the best version of myself. So I feel like on my deathbed, I'd just be looking at that version of myself, because I've done what I've wanted in life, and I don't have any regrets and no reason to look back. I don't know if that answers the question well, but that's how I see it.
That's beautiful. I know that you're just gonna be staring into a mirror, and I love how open-minded you are, that you actually could go over the answer that we were searching, and you just gave the open-minded answer, and I'm more than sure that you're gonna be looking into a mirror, so no worry about that.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just a matter of actually seeing through the question. Previous guest we literally had last week, he was like, oh wow, like I just realized that I might have like quite a few regrets. So thank you guys for this question. I'm very happy you actually said that on the podcast, because whenever we ask it ourselves, we think about it as well. But yeah, I do appreciate that you actually fully digested it and give us a open-minded answer, as Bogdan was mentioning. But Szabo, with that said, I'm just going to give you the red carpet. Now is the moment to share with our audience, with everyone that might be listening in January when we release this, or February, or 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whoever is listening, now is the moment to share your resources, where they can find you, where they can find your music.
Sure. So if you like aggressive bass music, my name is ZABO. You can find my music wherever you listen to music. ZABO is how you spell my name, or ZABO, depending on how you say that letter. And on all social media at ZABO Music. So yeah, check me out.
Yeah, I definitely recommend you guys. If you haven't, please go and listen to this guy's music, especially if you are into fitness and into sport. I mean, it changed my workouts this year completely, I swear. Yeah, it's just mind-blowing. And with that, thank you so much, Szabo, for being here with us and with sharing with us and our audience your story, your setbacks, your success. And yeah, we're beyond grateful to have you on.
Thank you for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. I had a blast. I really did.
And with that said, I'm Basco.
This was Bogdan, and you guys stay grateful. Take care.
See ya.
Thank you so much for sticking all the way till the end. This shows that you are serious about taking your life to the next level and doing that through a perspective of gratitude. If you enjoyed this interview, it would help us massively if you could give us a 5-star rating review on iTunes, or else share this on your stories and tag us. This way, with your help, our message will be seen by more people, and together we will make this world a better place.